Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is day 2. It is Thanksgiving week. So we are doing Thankful to the Core Facebook Live course. And this is day 2. And today we're going to talk about to crunch or not to crunch. If you are watching live, instead of giving me a thumbs up like you did yesterday, why don't you dump in your favorite emoji just for fun? And so I can see the emojis kind of go by. If your favorite emoji is a poop emoji, I can handle it. I have a kid. So just dump in an emoji so I can see you're watching. And so today we are talking about crunching. We talked about planking yesterday, and planking works all of our deep core muscles. Crunching, on the other hand, if you're doing just a thoracic flexion movement, tends to work mainly the rectus abdominis muscle, which is the muscle that is your six-pack muscle that kind of runs this way in your stomach area and is responsible for thoracic flexion as well as lumbar flexion. And so whenever we do those movements, this muscle group tends to be shortened. And, you know, I will admit, I am not the biggest fan of crunching. And I will tell you why. In a second, you'll understand right at the end of the video why I don't like crunching for various reasons. But a lot of people enjoy doing it because it does strengthen those rectus abdominis muscles, which we tend to see in that six-pack definition. So if you're a fitness builder, fitness bodybuilder, all that, you need to be doing some sort of crunching to work those muscles. But also a lot of people are already tight and contracted in that area because we're rounded forward. You can see me rounded here in this video. I'm trying to stay small so you can catch me in the frame. But most people need work to kind of open up and stretch those muscle groups. So it's important to work them, but not necessarily doing that thoracic flexion position. But first, let's talk about, if you choose to crunch, how to do it properly. So just like yesterday, I'm going to demonstrate 2 things back to back. I'm going to demonstrate how I see most people do crunches in the gym, and then I'm going to demonstrate how I would like to be seeing you do a crunch if you're doing it in the gym. So I'm just going to jump right into it, and you can see the differences, and then we'll talk about it. So let me get ready here for movement, get this nice and lowered. And I'm gonna lay down on the back here. And like I said, I'm gonna demonstrate an incorrect version of crunching first. So this is mainly what I see. And what I would love to see is more like this. So, not sure if you can see the differences there, but in the first exercise, my pelvis was tucked under, so I had that tuck position in the pelvis. I had my hands behind my head. I was kind of cranking a lot with my head. I was pulling my head forward and of my alignment of my upper back, and I was looking down, and I was doing a lot of that kind of crunching and rounding movement that most people already kind of have naturally in their body that I don't think we should be doing over and over again. Because we're usually trying to undo that thoracic flexion. But the second version, as you can see, I was doing a crunch far more, what I would call more challenging. It's definitely more challenging exercise, and more biomechanically safe, so to speak. So if you notice, my pelvis was in neutral, so I had a little bit of space between my lower back and the mat. I placed my hands behind my head, and I really try to let my head relax into my hands, so I'm not pulling with my neck muscles. I already have forward head posture from being on the computer for 10 hours yesterday. I don't need to make it worse. And then I pretended like someone's going to chop me off here at this bottom rib, and I flexed using the muscles right in here, and I lifted my head and chest as one unit. So let me demonstrate that again for you so you can see the differences between the first one and the second one. So as I mentioned, my pelvis was in neutral. We talked about this yesterday. If I place my hands on my pelvis and I lift my head here, I have a nice flat hand. So my fingertips are not raised. This would be a tuck, nor am I extremely arched. This would be an arch. This is neutral. I could put a coffee cup on my pelvis. Then again, the hands went behind the head. The head relaxed into the hands, and I visualize that I'm crunching and moving from this part of my body. So I'm lifting and lowering, and lifting and lowering. And so you can really see I'm really using these muscles. My pelvis stays as still as possible. I'm trying to draw this belly muscle, this transverse abdominis in, and I'm using my rectus muscle at the same time. Now, So like I said, if you plan to do crunches, that would be the perfect way to do the crunch. You can advance it a couple ways. You can bring your legs up to a tabletop position, and you can add a rotation to it. So let me show you a couple of those variations so you can see how to make that perfect crunch position, how to make it more challenging for you. So like I said, we can add rotation to it by simply keeping the elbows wide and then really twisting and rotating again from this rib cage area, keeping the pelvis still. If we bring the legs up to a tabletop position, it is more challenging. So I can add an extension of the leg as long as I keep my pelvis still, as long as, again, I'm not crunching and utilizing my neck muscles, overly flexing them, and then I'm really rotating side to side using the muscles right here around the bottom rib cage. So there you go. So those are some advancements of a crunch. So if you choose to do crunching in your life, that's how I would love to see it done. If you're doing one of my coaching programs, my 4-week coaching program more specifically does have the ability for you to upload a video, for me to check your form. So if you want me to check your form, you can join my coaching program, or I'll even extend it this week. If someone wants to drop me an email, I'll be happy to check form and reply back and give you my feedback. That's always really helpful nowadays. We have those phones where we can shoot videos and send them off really easily. All right, so now, are you one of those people that shouldn't crunch? Well, let me tell you, if you have chronic neck pain, if you look in the mirror and you know you have a forward head posture, if you don't necessarily have a strong core and haven't worked your core in a while, those are all really good reasons to maybe avoid crunching. Because let me tell you, that if I spend 10 hours on a computer like I did yesterday, I spent a lot of time on the computer yesterday, very unusual for me, but I happen to do that. And the next day, I don't do the proper postural work to kind of get my spine back and my muscles activated. And if I were to walk into a mat Pilates class or some sort of class where I did a lot of crunching, I would hurt my neck. It's happened before, and it will happen again. And I say it will happen again because that would be bad behavior. I should be doing my posture work and getting myself back into alignment before I walk in and do all that core work. So it happens to all of us. And so if you're in that position, if you're in that category, there's no need to do crunches. So let me show you some options for you to help building your core strength back. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about back exercises. So again, if you fall in that category, you have chronic neck pain, you have kyphosis, you have forward head posture, and you have a weak core, I would make sure you're doing back exercises in addition to doing any of the following exercises I'm about to give you. And that will help get you stronger. And then maybe someday you'll feel ready to start to do some crunches. So that would be my suggestion. So let's start with an exercise called leg changes. This requires the upper body to be still. There's no thoracic flexion. There's a lot of work happening in the lower body. A lot of it has to do with pelvic stabilization, hip flexor strength, your transverse abdominis strength, working to stabilize the pelvis. And it does require you to really pay attention to how still your pelvis is. So let me demonstrate it, and then we'll talk about it. So we're going to lie on the back. I'm going to find that neutral pelvis that we talked about. I'm going to pull my stomach in. I'm going to bring the legs up to a tabletop position. And let's see, can you see? Let me give a little adjustment here to the angle of this so you can see a little movement. Sorry about that. Okay, so my legs are in tabletop position. My knees are directly above my hips. My shins are parallel to the ground. I'm going to maintain the shape of my foot as I lower this foot down when I'm about to touch this table. But I'm going to try to lower it down towards the floor and bring it right back up again without any movement in my pelvis. And then I'm going to do the other side. So again, reaching that toe down, maintaining the shape of the knee, and bringing the leg up to tabletop without moving my pelvis. So as you can see, get this table out of the way a little bit. So as you can see, the critical piece of this is making sure that the pelvis is super duper still and the leg is moving down and up, and that's adding load to the pelvis, so you're working your core to help stabilize that pelvis. If you feel this in your lower back, you can modify the range of motion. So here I am again, legs in the tabletop, pelvis still. Right about there, I start to feel my pelvis arch. Okay, we don't want to do this. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to keep this super still. Then I would just bring my leg up, and that would be my range of motion. So I would keep a very limited range of motion going up and down with the legs. You don't want to go so far that you feel your pelvis arch, your rib cage flare up, any of that other fun stuff. I have my hands on my pelvis for this, but I actually prefer that the exercise be done with the palms face up. So really it would look like this. I'm pulling my abs in and I'm lowering my leg. And you can do one side 10 times, other side 10 times, or alternate back and forth any of those variations work great. Okay, so that was leg changes. I also want to talk about something called, another exercise called a reverse crunch. I have people ask me if I think these are okay. Yes, so in a reverse crunch, you're doing the opposite motion. You're doing a lumbar flexion, bringing your knees in. So you are using some of your rectus abdominis muscle. You are using some of your hip flexor muscles. And it doesn't promote thoracic flexion. So for a lot of people, this exercise will feel feel good and work well. I'm going to use a pillow in between my knees for this. So grabbing my handy pillow here, and I'm going to place this between my knees. I'm going to place my palms face up, which I love to do because it opens my shoulders. And as you can see, my shoulders do not hit the floor today. That's because I did a ton of rounding yesterday and did not do my back exercises this morning as I said I would do. So I'll be doing them right after this video. So anyway, here we are. I'm going to keep this nice and tight, and I'm going to go ahead and bring the knees in towards me. Now what I don't want to see is this. Okay, lots of crunching in the upper spine as I do the lower spine. I'm going to try to keep my upper spine still as I bring my lower spine towards me. Trying to get my hips off the floor using my core. Now this pillow is actually a little heavy, so if you put something heavy between your knees, we'll add a little load to it, make it more challenging for you. But again, pay attention to where the upper body is and what it's doing. Shouldn't be scrunching up by the ears, the shoulders shouldn't be coming up. You should really be trying to stay as stable as possible. And if you go palms face up, you will use less of your arms in the exercise, and that means you have to use your more of the core, because if you're pushing with your arms, you're using your arms, not your core. All right, last exercise, I call this dead bug, and it does require some coordination. You are going to move the opposite arm and opposite leg, while the other opposite arm and the other opposite leg are staying super still. That's probably the biggest mistake most people make on this, is the arm and leg that should not be moving tend to move a lot. So I'll demonstrate that. And it is complicated and it can be challenging. It's a play on the leg changes exercise. So instead of lowering the leg down, you're actually going to extend the leg out on a 45-degree angle, which also requires a lot of stability in the pelvis to make sure that the pelvis is not rocking. A lot of physical therapists give this exercise because it's so great for working all those cross muscles and working the brain. So let me demonstrate it and see what you think. So here we are. Fingertips right over the shoulders, knees directly above the hips, abs pulled in. Opposite arm and opposite leg are going to extend back. And I'm going to really pull my stomach in, make sure my ribs are not flaring and my back is not arching. This arm and this leg are staying super still. Everything comes back to center, and then we do the opposite side. Opposite arm, opposite leg, and everything comes back to center. So again, if you do these and you really work slowly, making sure your pelvis is not moving, it can be super duper challenging. So again, this is called dead bug. And really work to try to keep the opposite arm and opposite leg that are not moving as still as possible, and the pelvis as still as possible. Okay, I think that's it. I could give you a ton of other exercises to do, but that's a good start for you today. And tomorrow, like I said, we will review back exercises and what back exercises you should be doing daily. And as soon as I turn off this video, I will be doing my back exercises like I do mostly every day, especially to counteract a day that I spent a lot of time on the computer, like I did yesterday. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or post below this video and I will respond. And I will see you all tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific. See you then.